Welcome. It is 5 o'clock on Monday, November 20th, 2023. This is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape Girardeau. Again, thank you all for being here. We will begin with an invocation by Pastor Phil Roop of Bethel Assembly of God here in Cape Girardeau, and then follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all, please rise.
If it's red, it's on, right? I can make sure that. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Heavenly Father and great God, Master of this entire universe, God, your word tells us that this is the day the Lord has made. And even though it's been rainy, we'll thank you for that. And we'll thank you for this day you've given us. We know that your word reminds us that you are concerned with the affairs of man. And we ask you for wisdom today, God, wisdom for Mayor Kinder, for this elected councils that seek to make good policy and beneficial decisions for the city of Cape Girardeau. We're thankful, first of all, for our first responders, for our police chief, Wes Blair, for our officers, for Fire Chief Randy Morris and our firefighters, for Sheriff Dickerson and the Sheriff's Department and our Highway Patrol. We pray that you keep them safe and healthy as they endeavor to do the same for our citizens. Thank you for our military at home and abroad. Keep your hand of protection on each of them. Help us as citizens to navigate this journey that you've given us. And we ask that our students and educators at all levels finish this year, 2023, strong, and that Cape area families flourish accordingly during this season. And as we enter this holy day and this Advent season, we are reminded that God became flesh and lived among us, and for that we are grateful. 700 years before the birth of Christ, Isaiah the prophet reminded us, as the word of God spoke to him, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Let us remember to be thankful for all the blessings that you've given us this week specifically. Let us have and live each day with an attitude of gratitude. We do pray for peace here and abroad, and our thanksgiving begins with you. We pray and petition these things in that name, the name above every name, the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We have nothing in our study sessions tonight, nor any presentations. Council, is there anything from communications or reports?
Yeah, I'll start off.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity on Friday to go to the Zonta Club Women of Achievement Award Luncheon, and our very own Casey Brunke was nominated and one of the finalists. So I'd like for us all to give Casey.
Yes.
So super proud for you and everything that you've done, Casey. And it was a great luncheon, and former council member Kathy Swan was awarded. So it was a great luncheon and very heavily attended.
Nice, thank you. Anyone else? Council? No? Nate?
I have one thing, but I'm letting you say it.
You go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You are the parent of, yes, you have the privilege of being the mother of a senior, so you go ahead and say.
It did indeed. On Saturday, the Cape Central Tigers football team traveled up to Eureka, Missouri, and won the quarterfinal state playoff game. And so, yes, it's always fun to see our Southeast Missouri athletes put it to the big city kids. And they will be playing in the semifinal this coming Saturday, back up in St. Louis against Cardinal Ritter. So if everyone has a moment, you can wish them good luck. And I'll say good luck to all the athletes that are participating in postseason play. I'm not familiar with all the different, some sports have finished up and some are still playing, but yeah, congratulations to them. That's right. And I will add, since I am a proud senior mom, this is for the second year in a row, the Tigers are finding themselves in the semifinal football game. So that's a lot of fun. Yes, indeed. Anyone else? All right. Hearing nothing, we'll move on into items for discussion. Is there anyone here to appear as an advisory board applicant tonight? Nope, all right. Next, we'll have our Planning and Zoning Commission report. Mr. Grieser.
Good evening, Mayor, Dr. Haskin, and council members. The last Planning and Zoning meeting was November the 8th, and these are the items that came before us. 211, 219 South Silver Springs Road Development Code exception. The request was for an exception from the required number of stacking spaces for a restaurant with drive-through and on-site seating. The count was 7 in favor, none in opposition, and 1 member abstained. Second item was the Winterfield subdivision record plat located at 136 and 138 Winterfield Circle. The plat subdivides a lot containing a duplex into 2 lots with each dwelling unit on a separate lot. The recommendation was for the approval, and all 8 members present voted in favor of that. Next item was the Brick and Ivy subdivision record plat located at the southeast corner of North Sprigg Street and Olive Street. The plat subdivided a lot to create 2 new lots. The recommendation was for approval by the city staff, and 8 members present voted in favor. And finally, the last item was the Boyce Church subdivision record plat located at 619 and 627 North Broadview. The plat subdivided a lot to create 2 new lots. The recommendation by city staff was for the approval, and all 8 members present voted in favor. And that concluded the business last. Any questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Happy
here.
Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks.
All right, well, nope, sorry. We have the consent agenda review. Dr. Haskin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We added number 7 to the review for you tonight. Basically, it's a motion to accept the water main improvements to serve the Houck Stadium improvements. Mayor, that concludes the consent review.
Thank you. We will move into regular session, starting with the roll call. Ms. Conrad.
Mr. Bliss? Here. Mr. Guard? Here. Mayor Kinder?
Here?
Mr. Presson? Here. Ms. Randle? Here. Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Truxel?
Here. All right, council, we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Presson, Mr. Thomas, any discussion? All those in favor then of the agenda as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda carries. We have no public hearings tonight, so we will move right into the consent agenda. Mr. Young, would you please read that?
Bill 23-164, an ordinance renaming a portion of Bellevue Street to Smallwood Williams Way in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-164, an ordinance renaming a portion of Bellevue Street to Smallwood Williams Way in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-167, ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 406 Bertling Street in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to R3. Bill 23-167, ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 406 Bertling Street in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to R3. Bill 23-168, ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at the southeast and southwest corners of Missouri State Highway K and Notre Dame Drive in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to C2. Bill 23-168, ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at the southeast and southwest corners of Missouri State Highway K and Notre Dame Drive in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from R1 to C2. Bill 23-169, ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a maintenance agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for intersection improvements at Route 74 and Shawnee Parkway and Minnesota Avenue in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 22-169, ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a maintenance agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for intersection improvements at Route 74 and Shawnee Parkway and Minnesota Avenue in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-170, ordinance accepting a permanent water line easement from the Board of Governors at Southeast Missouri State University for property at 400 Hawk Place in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 23-170, ordinance accepting a permanent water line easement from the Board of Governors at Southeast Missouri State University for property at 400 Hawk Place in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
All right, thank you. Council, we have a consent agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bliss, Ms. Truxel, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor then of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That agenda carries. No items were removed from the consent agenda. We'll move into new ordinances. As always, we will have a presentation of each new ordinance, and then members of the public may come forward and express any questions or concerns you may have, and then council will take up the issue. First, we have Bill 23-171, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, and to install a city monument at the Route W Lexington Avenue roundabout in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. This is the first reading. Mr. Pulley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Dr. Haskin. The license agreement grants the city a non-exclusive right with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission to use a portion of the commission property for the purpose of installing and maintaining a city monument for the Lexington and Route W roundabout improvement. Present are Ms. Rust and her team to give a presentation and any questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Sherry Rust. Is that all I need? Do I need to give you my address and all that?
Sure.
or-
Yes, please.
Okay. My address is 8477 Gulf Boulevard, 1403 in Navarre, Florida, 32566. So I'm going to be quick with this, just to give you the why behind the Dance of Life sculpture, which is a prototype over here for everyone to see. As most of you know, my husband Rex passed away a year ago in January of pancreatic cancer. And he loved the city of Cape Girardeau. He loved the people here. And I wanted to do a memorial in his honor. But since the initial thought of that, it's grown into much more. To Rex, relationships were what life was about. And the Dance of Life displays that perfectly, in my opinion. It's about all relationships, business, personal, family. To him, it wasn't about the beginning or the end of life, but it was the journey along the way and the relationships that you made. None of the other things really mattered, the status, the money, the things. At the end of the day, it was about the relationships, and that's what this sculpture represents. And we thought a roundabout would be perfect for that because of the motion and the dance. It just seemed all, to work really well together. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the artist, the sculptor, Stephen Canetto, and he's going to give you a little information about the process. Thank you.
I'm Stephen Canetto, 5048 Link Court, Whitehall, Ohio. As Sherry said, the sculpture is really about relationships. Our work is about the connection of people to place and connection of people to each other. It's also about the fragility of life. If you look at those two figures, balancing each other, it takes more than one person to stand on the sphere of life. Sherry reminds me, when she talked of relationships, of an Irish proverb that says, "We live within the shelter of each other." Our work has been about that. Our public art has been about celebrating life, bringing people together, creating community. Our most recent project was a memorial for those children killed in a shooting at the Dorothy Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We were celebrating the lives of those children, commemorating those lives, not talking about their deaths. As we thought about a location, and Sherry had mentioned the work that we've been doing with the city and the Missouri Department of Transportation to identify this site at the Lexington roundabout. Right in the center of that roundabout is where we hope to locate this sculpture. Thinking about the materials, it's stainless steel, highly polished stainless steel, textured stainless steel. Stainless because it's extremely low maintenance. We're envisioning a washing once a year to keep it looking good. The height of this total piece from the ground to the top is 13 feet 6 inches. It's mounted on a base of textured concrete with the city's of Cape's logo right there in the front. And that's mounted on a riser of 18 inches. Here's MoDOT's cross-section, or I'm sorry, elevation of the roundabout itself. And they've broken it down into 3 zones. That outermost zone is the truck apron, and then there's their sign zone and their buffer zone. We are right in the center in what MoDOT has dedicated as the monument zone. It's a zone that MoDOT has set up for this kind of event. Judith, would you talk about the hardscape?
Good evening. I'm Judith Spader, and I live at 5048 Link Court with my husband Stephen in Whitehall, Ohio. And I designed this. The curvilinear lines echo the curvilinear lines in the sculpture. The materials are unilock pavers, the permeable type, so that the water, instead of sheeting off, will go down into the groundwater through a gravel bed, through the base. So, and you saw the traffic apron, the truck apron, none of that will be dismantled or touched in the installation of this. It's all going to go, if you've been out there to that site and know that traffic circle, it's all gravel and, plantings and so forth now. So this will be zero maintenance, basically. The rain will wash it, and that's about all we'll need to do with it. So that's that. Thank you.
In thinking about how we're installing this piece, we have, with our engineer, designed a central core, an 8-inch diameter steel pipe that is welded to the figures, welded to the sphere, drops down through the base and that plinth, that riser, into a concrete footer. Mounted in that concrete footer is another piece of steel pipe, stainless pipe, that's ID is the same diameter as the OD. So it slides right into it and forms a permanent anchoring system. Again, we work with structural engineers to make sure that both the footer and the steel are all designed to withstand the environment and the conditions. When we came to the question of lighting, how are we going to get power to this? We settled on solar panels. So there'll be a solar collector. That collector will then be, the energy will be stored in batteries that will then be used to power up the LED lights. One of the questions we had was, okay, what's going to happen to the oncoming traffic at night with these lights? These lights are narrow beamed. They're going to be focused on the sculpture itself and will not be shining in the eyes of the oncoming traffic. Judy?
Good evening. My name is Judy Cantoni. I live here, obviously, in Cape Girardeau. My address is 1840 Silverthorne Trail. And the purpose of my portion of the presentation is to talk to you about how not only this came about that Sherry mentioned, but how is it feasibly possible for this to happen? And that is through a partnership between the city, MoDOT, private donors, and community interested parties. And so I wanted to speak just a little bit to the purpose of, and I feel like I get to steal this thunder a little bit from Sherry because she should be the one to deliver this information. But through the Community Foundation, there's been a fund established for the creation and placement of this to be done as donors, obviously under Sherry's direction, and then gifted to the city. So it will not be something that you will be looking at a budgetary standpoint to place this sculpture in the roundabout. One of the great things about that is it's a true picture of collaboration of our community. I know that we have many projects across the city that we try to encounter collaboration between the public entity of our leadership and our government, as well as private citizen. And this is a great example. I have to commend the city, the folks in the city who have been working on this project behind the scenes, as well as MoDOT, who has also been a great partner in coming together and providing information and keeping the steps in the process moving. And then, of course, to make that possible in order to pay for the expenditures that are part of the process, having those private donors and community interested parties to provide funding for that. So I just wanted to commend all of those individuals in this process. And I also want to challenge you as council members and as community members to encourage the continued process of that fund to support this. Obviously, we have worked really hard to get where we are. We ended up taking a little pause in that fundraising process because of the changes of where we might be able to locate the sculpture. And now that we have, hopefully, with your approval, found a location that we think benefits a lot of things. It benefits the individuals in our community who will visibly see this on a daily basis. So for those of you, I know that for Shannon and Robbie, it literally smack dab lands in the middle of the line between your two wards. But not only that, it's an area in our community that many people pass by. And I think that as you pass by on your way to work, it's a great reminder of the importance of relationships with those you work with and those you see and those you encounter and those strangers that you meet on the streets. And it's also on your way home a great reminder of how important it is that you live in a community that has caring, loving people who want to make our community better. So we appreciate you all in looking at this. And of course, we also appreciate our general population of the city to support this project. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment or pose a question? Okay, hearing none. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-171?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Guard, Mr. Presson, Shannon. Discussion.
You know, I've been driving past that spot for a long time, thinking, man, we're really underutilizing this space, and this is the perfect solution. What a fitting opportunity that the city has to really showcase what Judy just perfectly said. You know, that collaboration, and then to really just showcases a life well lived and a life that really loved the community of Cape Girardeau. It's right there in this really high trafficked area, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity. So thank you for bringing this. Thank you for all the collaborative effort that went into this. I think this is a great way for people that enter into the city of Cape Girardeau for the first time. They see a shining monument that really showcases some wonderful things. So thank you.
Considering that the college students like to put couches right there at that roundabout, I think it very fitting that a tribute to Russ would go right there. No, I fortunately being friends with Rex for a while, and I think this is great. Out of all the things that have been discussed, this is perfect. It goes in line with what we've done with other roundabouts, and there's no doubt that this one will look as good or better than any of them. So very happy. Glad we can have a partnership.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the roundabout looks incomplete, but perhaps with this piece of art, it will look very nice, especially from the walking trail, which everyone will be able to see. So yes, thank you so much to the artists for coming as well, for being here. And thank you so much for presenting this to us. I think it's a wonderful piece of art for the city.
I had two process questions that I meant to ask before the meeting, but so we're approving this ordinance is for our agreement with MoDOT for the location. Do we have to have a separate vote on the agreement with the contractor, or is that handled administratively?
So this is the ordinance just for the agreement with MoDOT.
Yeah.
This will be making sure the structure, everything in the city is a partnership with MoDOT, and then we'll move forward. This is the first step in the process.
So there will be subsequent votes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I figured. Because my main question that I have is the amazing idea. This is beautiful, a great concept. It's our most heavily trafficked roundabout, and I think it's a great contribution, and I commend you guys for your efforts pulling it together. I then go to the next step of the unfortunate circumstance of if this were to be, somebody drove into it, somebody defaced it. However, whose responsibility will that be? Is that part of the continuing the fundraising? And that's something that we'll be deciding in a future date. So that's the part of the reality of, or if the solar panels go out after their useful life, whatever it might be, what the responsibility that is.
Yes, that will be the second portion of this for the installation and the agreements afterwards.
Fantastic. I look forward to that, but and most of all, I look forward to this successfully passing. So thank you guys.
Yes, sir.
The other question I had, which I just wanted you to answer for public purposes mainly, but the way this is going to be done, there's going to be very little maintenance cost for this city, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. The maintenance on this, the designers, Mr. Ross, MoDOT, the city, our engineers and our staff have been working on this along with Dr. Haskin for months. It is ensured that it's low maintenance. It's going to be very low cost. They've done an amazing job of raising money for this project. All projects have maintenance cost, but what they've done with the materials and the statue itself, it's going to be, we've talked to Stephen several times, it's going to be washing it possibly once a year. The landscaping of it, it's going to be permeable items. Water's going to go down inside the ground. It's going to be very low maintenance for the staff and everybody else.
Thank you.
I just had a couple questions. I was wondering two things, and maybe I'm kind of like Nate, probably should have asked. I was wondering, it's for Rex, but it has the city of Cape Girardeau right at the bottom. How did it come to that terms, in regards to that? Just because it's our city, and then the sculpture represents the symbolism of Rex for community and unity in that regard?
Part of that, would you like to answer some of that about?
I will go ahead and elaborate on that. One of the challenges with respect to the partnership is trying to create a nexus or relationship with the memorial itself. And having the city logo there really essentially ties the city to this sculpture in and of itself. So in essence, in order for that partnership to be palatable, it is in keeping with general rule of thumb that there's a nexus created. And the only way we could do that was by having the city's logo there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haskin. And I was wondering, and in regards to, we would have to vote and other things, kind of lay out what the regulations, what the city would be, even though they seem like limited, but those will be laid out for us. It's like Nate was saying, our responsibility for certain things that may occur.
Yes, ma'am. And we have permitting and working with MoDOT daily on the installation and what needs to be done. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Rex was a good friend of mine. So the dancing piece, I mean, there's a couple events we went to and we danced all night, remember Sherry? So to carry his symbol and bring that in Cape and kind of have that in the atmosphere. Appreciate you for doing that, you and Judy and others.
Okay. I'll just add my thanks to everyone involved in this process and especially to Sherry for wanting to do this in this way. Obviously, a lot of people in Cape knew Rex very well, and I think this sculpture really captures his spirit. So well done with you and the sculptors in getting that accomplished. It's a really neat thing, and it's a wonderful beautification project for the city as well. We have a nice roundabout there, but unfortunately, it has fallen on hard times and various sofas and whatnot. So this is great from our perspective as well. So. Any other comments, questions? All right then, council, all in favor of Bill 23-171, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. All right. Next, we have Bill 23-172, an ordinance appropriating funds for housing the homeless for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. This is the first reading. Ms. Mills.
Excuse me. Good evening. This is a ordinance appropriating the expenditure of funds for the fiscal year into June 30, 24, which is our current fiscal year, for housing the homeless in the city of Cape Girardeau. So the attached appropriation ordinance is submitted at this time so that the expenditure of $10,000 for this fiscal year to pay specifically for hotel rooms for housing the homeless in Cape Girardeau. That would be during this winter months, obviously. Okay. That's really all there is to it. The funds will come from the casino revenue, $10,000, and it will pay for the hotel rooms.
All right, thank you. Is anyone in the public who wishes to speak or have a question regarding this issue?
Elizabeth Shelton on behalf of United Way of Southeast Missouri and First Call for Help, a community partnership, and the Salvation Army, and other organizations that include the People's Shelter and street level that are helping, and many, many churches that are helping the homeless. We want to thank you for considering this and just leave you with this thought. What kind of city do we want to be known as? One that helps our most vulnerable citizens when they are at their most vulnerable, or one that leaves it up to all of these other organizations to try to do it on minimum funds. So thank you. Our people need help, our nonprofits need help, and I hope that you will find it in your hearts to help us help others.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment? All right, hearing none. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-172?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Presson, Ms. Truxel, thank you. Discussion.
Like I said last time, whenever Elizabeth presented this conversation at last meeting, I called it a masterclass in collaboration. I still agree with that. I think that this is an opportunity for the city to really see a lot of our nonprofit organizations coming together and working in order, on behalf of an underprivileged population, especially during some really challenging winter months. Needless to say, I've also started thinking about this in the eyes of our first responders. You know, on those cold, snowy, icy nights when we have our police or our fire department that has to go out there into the community in order to work with a member of the population. Needless to say, also, this is how the Broadway Theater originally got into the situation that it was in when somebody went into an abandoned building and tried to set a fire for warmth, and then the building became thusly condemned. And so I've thought a lot about this, and I think this is actually a really good investment to make, not only in this community, but also just for the protection of some of the city staff that works with our population so well. And so that's why I support this. I think this is a great opportunity to showcase collaboration and a great opportunity to really help the population in need.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone?
Yes, first I want to thank Mayor Kinder for bringing this and putting it on the agenda, and also thank Elizabeth for not giving up on the city. Ever since I've been on council, this has been a topic of concern, and this is really the first opportunity to take a vote. So I think there's an opportunity to do more. I think this is an appropriate amount. I hope that if this passes council, that we don't use all of those funds, because that means that there aren't enough homeless to fill those hotel rooms. So, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Wishing? Well, we've kind of moved on into the discussion time for
The only
council.
thing that.
I'm sorry. Yes.
I'll add something, and I know this is, waiting for my house to get TP'd. Fundamentally, I don't believe that this is the place of municipal government. I look at what we're supposed to do as a city, and I think of the basic needs of infrastructure and public safety, and I believe that with this vote, if it were to pass, this opens up a big potential ask that could get bigger and bigger over time. And I just worry that with this potential, that it could expand to further. And I understand their needs. I also know that we have multiple nonprofits, not just the 3 or 4 nonprofits there and the number of churches that we have. And I just don't, I personally don't believe that we should be getting involved in this per se. I believe that there are a lot of good nonprofits out there that are better suited and better formed for this than we are. That's just my opinion, so.
I would like to add, Mayor Kinder. I'm kind of torn myself because my whole life been a public service in many capacities. And so I'm listening to some of the things that Councilman Guard mentioned, which are some of the things that I hold true. I think this request is invaluable. I think it's noteworthy. I think there's many organizations in our city that deem deserving of this. I just don't think it's the functionality of our city government, the way we are set up to provide that service. And if we open that up and all the other nonprofits in the community that will want to seek funding in that aspect from us and expect that, then that takes away from the focus of city government. That takes the focus away from infrastructure. That takes the focus away from public safety. That takes the focus away from Parks and Rec. I'll be happy to. I serve at the state level in many capacities, which I have shared to housing committees. I work in nonprofit housing committees to serve our community, to provide sustainable living. I will be happy outside of that to donate personal funds, which I have, and offer my time in public service. But city government, the way we're set up, is the function and operation of the city. It doesn't take away anything less of any other organizations, but we still have to concentrate on the city at hand and the governing body of what we set out to do. So that's where I stand with that.
I just want to say I agree with Tameka and Robbie on this. I think that the city has some major things that we have to fund, including public safety and streets, which time and again my constituents bring up to me. I also share the concern that if we do this, that down the road we could be putting more and more money into this. And there's also a concern I have that the temporary housing at the Salvation Army, as Linda Shelton mentioned at the last meeting, depends upon them having staffing. And as far as I know at this point, I don't think that they do have all that staffing in place, which suggests to me that the basic way that they're looking to address this is to put people into the hotel rooms. But I just think we have so many basic services we need to do, and there are charitable groups, there are federal programs and federal grants, and I think that it is just not something that I think fiscally we can do.
Anybody else? I have a few comments. Wanted to make a few points. Regarding the funding, this proposal is to use casino funds for this expense. The casino fund, I'll remind everyone, is not created out of taxpayer dollars. It comes from money the casino collects from its patrons and then gives to the city. And so that's how our casino fund is funded. Over the years, since it was created, our focus has been using that casino fund on either one-time expenses or expenses that are perhaps carried out over several years, but they are reevaluated every year. We know our casino fund is not a place to use for example, salaries and whatnot. And so for that reason, as well as for the fact that we typically use our casino fund in many ways for public safety issues, equipment and one-time expenses. I think the casino fund is an appropriate way to fund this city request. Several people have mentioned that the city should focus on, public safety and infrastructure. And we do that. We typically do that using other funding sources, not the casino fund. And so financially, there would be no conflict here, I don't think. Additionally, the request is coming from the United Way. The city's involvement would be nothing except reimbursing the United Way for the work that they are helping to coordinate with the Salvation Army and Community Partnerships of Southeast Missouri. So this would not detract any city work as well. I've had numerous questions from people in the community, and several people have kind of touched on this. I did want to reiterate, though, there is no plan by the city or by the Salvation Army or by CPCMO to create a permanent homeless shelter. In fact, those agencies have both expressed that they do not want to do that. And so for those who might be concerned that this is some kind of little foot in the door for that process, I just want to assure everyone that is not the case. As with anything, any funding request, there is always the option that we will get another request next year, a higher request down the road. And those are all, we do this all the time. We take those issues up as they come and decide either yes or no. We won't, it may be that next year we go through this process and realize, you know what, that really didn't work out the way we thought, or we really, have decided not to spend this money for this purpose, or perhaps, hey, we want to do more. But that would be a conversation that we would have annually. And I would just want to add one more thing. Like Dan, I have come to see this as a public safety issue as well. We know that we have folks in Cape Girardeau who are experiencing homelessness. Oftentimes they have physical illness. Oftentimes they have mental health illnesses. Oftentimes they have illnesses due to substance addictions. And those things in and of themselves make these folks contribute to a strong vulnerability. When they are then out in nasty winter weather, that vulnerable state is greatly heightened, right? So when we have homeless out in winter conditions, they're going to be more likely to end up in the ER. They're going to be more likely to trespass, unfortunately. They're going to be more likely to start fires simply to stay alive. And that's where our public safety forces are interacting. And so I've come to see this as being of assistance to our public safety forces. Our fire department. I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago that my husband's medical clinic had a fire started in the back of the building 2 winters ago from a homeless person who was trying to stay warm on a January night. The fire department thankfully quickly intervened and no damage was really done, but could have been. So the question for us tonight is whether it is appropriate for the city to help fund the United Way in the coordination that they are trying to see happen. Obviously, different opinions. I get it. But since I've been on the council for 5 years now, the city has always maintained that it helps fund those organizations that do critical work that the city does not do itself. And so several of you have mentioned opening this door. I would say this door has been wide open for a long, long time. And I'll just suggest, look at SEMO Pets, a wonderful organization. The city helps to fund SEMO Pets because they are performing an essential service that we have deemed very necessary, but the city doesn't want to get into that whole business, and so we help fund SEMO Pets. Annually, we give SEMO Pets $78,000 to help support the work with homeless animals. And so what we're talking about right now is helping support an organization that is helping support homeless people for up to $10,000. That is the question before us tonight. I'm supportive of doing that.
And I think a lot of us are supportive, it's just not with taxpayer dollars. I'll be glad to be chairman to raise the $10,000 you need. You got it on the record. And the first $500 is coming from my bank. Okay.
Well,
You
that's
ready?
wonderful, except I will say United Way expressed that with their projected budget, they're anticipating a need of $45,000. So that's not in addition, or excuse me, that's not in lieu of, Robbie. I think regardless, if we vote yes tonight,
They still need money.
They'll still need money. And I would reiterate, we're not talking about taxpayer dollars. We're talking about money, revenue coming in from the casino.
Mayor, I would like to say something. And we had this conversation amongst council. I've only been on council for a little over a year. There are organizations that we support that's in line with what the city doesn't do or help enhance the city. And technically, they seems to be grandfathered in, which I've questioned on several times, or if there are entities or if the entity is not currently doing what they're doing, that we need to evaluate or assess in-house in regards to that before we begin increasing funding with those that we provide funding to, or opening up funds for people to have an opportunity to receive those. And second, I guess the sad thing is that when you mention pets, like we don't care about the homeless people, was very sad, and those were things that were in place before we got here. We haven't changed any processes. Now, if we need to change processes and function as a city to support homelessness or any other service organizations, then that's behind the doors, processes, protocol that we need to do in-house. I'm with Robbie. I will assist with those efforts, like I said before, on a personal, but the functionality of the city is not set up for that at this time. And I have the biggest heart for community, as you know, but there are certain ways to get funds and there are certain times to use funding.
Well, we're getting into this big topic that we often have regarding our contracted partners. And so I mentioned SEMO Pets. Old Town Cape is a contracted partner that we give a lot of money to. SEMO Ready. There are nonprofits in town that we have deemed to do important work for the city, but that the city does not do itself. We don't have staffers or a department that would carry on with that work. So again, I guess I don't see this as any kind of totally new concept.
Okay.
Anyone want to add anything else before we?
I'll just add the simple fact that there is a history of contracted relationship with United Way for years and as criticized by council in the past, like giving money to these nonprofits, how, are they going to spend it wisely? How do we have an accounting? Can we get an accounting of yours? Well, they have it. We've been a contracted partner with them for years. They're also doing the work of managing other nonprofits like the People's Shelter and Salvation Army. And so no one's coming to help those people on the street. No one. There's no one coming. Nobody. We have how many churches and how many banks in this city? And no one's coming to help.
There are churches that help. I can guarantee you that.
But what I'm saying is, sorry, sir, this is my time. We have responses from churches that they don't want homeless individuals or drunks throwing up in their parking lot, yet we can't open our doors after hours to house them. So we have to work together at some point. We would all love to not have this problem in our community. We would all love to have everyone housed to make this utopia of Cape Girardeau, but it's not. And I will tell you that there's burnout on these volunteers. They can't do it forever. And there's no one in line behind them to replace their service. So please, I'm asking the other council members to reconsider when they're voting against this, that I hope that there's someone coming to help.
Any further comments by council? All right. Hearing none, then all in favor of Bill 23-172, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, can you raise your hand? Okay. Anyone opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, the vote is 3-4. That motion does not carry. Next, we have Bill 23-173, an ordinance accepting a special warranty deed from the William E. Walker III Revocable Trust for property located on East Cape Rock Drive in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. This is the first reading. Mr. Gannon.
Good evening. This ordinance accepts 16 acres of land on East Cape Rock Drive as part of the William Walker III estate. And the intention of this gift of land is to preserve this as a city park and maintain it as a city park.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this? Okay. Seeing none, on council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-173?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Presson, Mr. Thomas, any further discussion?
Former Mayor Fox was supposed to be here tonight to discuss part of that. William Walker's family grew up here in town. His father started W. Walker Insurance, and then had a steel manufacturing facility that worked in conjunction with the Florsheim manufacturing facility there. William Walker III grew up in that area of the property that's being donated. Longtime community advocate, grew up here in town, loved playing, he played golf at the country club. That's how he kind of met Bob. He didn't have any nieces or nephews. He was an only child, never had gotten married. And for years, even going back like 15, 16 years ago when I met him, he had always said, whenever I'm gone, I'm just going to give my property to the city and hopefully they can make a nice park for it. It would be nice for the children of the north part of town to have a park closer to them. And so really excited to see this come to fruition. And William was a great dude, neat, always took his dog with him everywhere. And he'd walk outside because he wanted to smoke a cigar, but he didn't want to be rude to other people around. And he's just a really neat gentleman. And I know he's looking down and he's very proud about this moment. So
This is a very unique piece of property. It fronts the Mississippi River. Lots of green space, a lot of passive opportunity, nice woods, lush with wildlife. So, we're excited about it. We've got a short-term plan in place to get things moving out there. And I think it's going to be really good for generations to come.
Whenever I've talked to people about this, I phrase it as what a gift toward one. This is a beautiful property that does have views of the Mississippi River. It's actually not far at all from Cape Rock Park and really kind of across the street from Fountain Park. And so it gives a wonderful opportunity in that north side of town and in Red Star and Ward 1 for people to interact with the wildlife, interact with the topography there. These are the hills that Lewis Lorimer walked and that Lewis and Clark saw and camped on themselves. And so it's neat to have it preserved. It's wonderful to have it be a part of the city of Cape Girardeau Parks and Recreation. And I just can't thank the late Mr. Walker enough, because it is a true gift to Ward 1.
Other comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had the pleasure of knowing about this for a while, being the liaison to the Parks and Rec Board, and I just keep thinking about it. It is an amazing gift, and I look forward to Doug and his team and what they're going to do to develop this into a park once it comes to fruition, and from the strategy. And it is an amazing piece of property. It's an open palette. It's got a lot of potential. Now, it will not happen overnight to the public. It takes time to develop that in strategy and funding over years, but I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with, and I know you guys will do an amazing job like you always do. But once again, what an amazing gift, and I guess a retrospective thank you. We owe a debt of gratitude, so.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none, then all in favor of Bill 23-174, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-175, an ordinance approving the record plat of Brick and Ivy subdivisions, the first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
Mayor, I think
did
we skipped one.
Sure did. So sorry. Thank you. Yeah, you just get comfortable for a little bit. Sorry, Bill 23-174, an ordinance approving the record plat of Boyce Church subdivisions, the first reading.
Good evening. Kevin already kind of gave you the overview of all three of these plats on the agenda, but Boyce Church subdivision is a property at the north end of North Broadview Street. It contains a commercial building and a residential building, and so this plat just splits them and places them each on a separate lot.
Thank you. Is anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Seeing none, then council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-174?
Second.
Mr. Guard, Mr. Presson. Any further discussion? All in favor then of Bill 23-174, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have Bill 23-175, an ordinance approving the record plat of Brick and Ivy subdivision. It's the first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
This property is located on North Sprigg Street. It also contains a commercial building and a residential building, and so this just splits them into two lots.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Hearing none, then council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-175?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor of Bill 23-175, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-176, an ordinance approving the record plat of Winterfield subdivision, first reading.
This is a duplex lot up near LaSalle Avenue, and the owner just wants to split it into two lots, placing each duplex unit on a separate lot.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Okay. Hearing none, then council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-176?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Bill 23-176, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-177, an ordinance accepting a sanitary sewer easement from Dalhousie LLC for property located west of Bloomfield Road and south of County Road 208 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's the first reading.
So Jeff Maurer is buying land from Dalhousie LLC to build a single-family home. It's a large tract out by the golf course, and he got a subdivision plat approved earlier in the year. The intention was to put the house on well and septic just because utilities aren't readily available. But he would like the option of extending a sanitary sewer main to the property in the future if he decides to do that. And so Dalhousie is the owner of the land where the easement would be located. So they have executed an easement to the city. So this ordinance just accepts that easement.
Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? No? All right, council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-177?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Bliss. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Bill 23-177, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-178, an ordinance amending Schedule F of Section 26-289 in the City Code regarding no parking zones on Smallwood Williams Way in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's the first reading.
Thank you, ma'am. This ordinance allows enforcement of the current no parking zones with a new street name.
All right. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Seeing none, then, council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-178?
Second.
Mr. Truxel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor then of Bill 23-178, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 23-179, an ordinance amending Schedule C of Section 26-132 of the City Code regarding a stop sign at Smallwood Williams Way and Pacific Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's the first reading.
Thank you, ma'am. This ordinance allows the enforcement of the current stop signs on the new street name, Smallwood Williams.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Seeing none, then, council, is there a motion to approve Bill 23-179?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
Well, this is a good one. We need to be able to enforce the stop signs. Let's keep that up.
Quick work. All in favor then of Bill 23-179, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We had one appointment tonight to the Golf Course Advisory Board. The council voted to re-elect Claire Neer for that position. Is there a motion to approve Claire Neer?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Presson, any further discussion? All in favor then of approving Claire Neer, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations to her. We have no other, oh, excuse me, there was one person who did register under other business to approach the council and speak tonight. Tommy Lee, is that person here? All right, they didn't make it in. Nothing else on the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Guard?
Second.
Mr. Thomas, any further discussion? All in favor then of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for attending.